Hello and welcome back to Macray's Keep. Tonight, well, this afternoon, this evening, where I am, we are going to be doing some basic scene building in the pocket gaming dimension. We're not going to get into all the nitty-gritty tonight, but we are going to go over the lion's share of the basic concepts, as well as showing you some cool techniques and just kind of demonstrating how straightforward it is to build a basic scene. And then we will see about dressing it up some and go from there. So thanks for watching, and here we go. So let's see. We're going to start with a scene from one of the previous streams. This one's a little wonky because we were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Why don't we just start with a fresh scene right here? And I'm gonna give us a little more space here. So first things first, I'm going to rename this. And let's call this the preparation chamber demo. So, as you can see here, we've got our default blank scene. Just kind of a room or a box, whatever you want to call it. And we are going to turn this into hopefully a pretty cool scene. So the first thing that you're generally going to do is make some decisions about floor, ceiling, and walls. Specifically, while we give you walls by default, they are a little bit limiting in that if you have, for example, a small space off of the side of this, or maybe hallways running in and out, this kind of closed box doesn't let you do a lot with that. If, on the other hand, your encounter is just fully enclosed for whatever reason, you certainly can apply textures to the walls, whether they're tiled textures or complete images, and achieve a lot of different effects that way. What we're going to do in this demo, however, is we're going to bring in our own walls in segment form, match them up to a kind of battle map that we're going to put on the floor and the ceiling, and we're going to make our room or our encounter, our scene, that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off these walls. And now we just have floor and ceiling. Kind of bland, just gray grid. As you saw in the scene that we loaded up before we came in here, you can have just a plain old tiled image texture to put on the floor. So here are some buttons here. Here is if you want to choose a tileable texture, if you want to choose an image from your library that it will lay down one copy of it right on the floor, or you can toggle between the two. Generally, you just pick one and you kind of go with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to pick an image that we have here, and it's this one right here, the preparation chamber floor. I did prepare these images beforehand. You can use really any tool you want to do map, floor, ceiling, wall images. I tend to use Inkarnate for that. I just find that even though I don't use many of the functions of Inkarnate, I like that it's pretty straightforward to use, and putting a grid on it and that sort of thing is pretty straightforward. And so that's what I like to use. Whatever you like to use, whether it's Photoshop or GIMP, just to do raw images, hey, that's fine. Or if you like something other than Inkarnate in the kind of more dedicated mapping software, hey, knock yourself out. Excuse me, I'm going to take some tea here. So before we apply this image, well, actually, I guess we're going to apply it first, and then we will talk about setting dimensions for our floor to match the grid that's on the image. So if we put this image down, you can see that there is a grid on the image. You can also see that it's a little wonky. It's a little not square there, and that's because the dimensions of the image don't match the dimensions of our scene. So we're going to go into top-down mode here. And I can tell you that, actually, let me just double check here. And we will set our map dimensions accordingly. I don't want to do this wrong. So our horizontal, or across the top, dimension is going to be 22 columns, but here at the Keep we count the actual vertices, so it's always going to be one more than the number of actual columns on your map. So we're going to go up to 23. And then the number of rows, or vertical, is going to be, my map is 14 squares, so we're going to go to 15 vertices. And let's go top down on this. And now you can see we have nice square grids. And then what this will do for us is we use our grid snap up here to align things and to move things square by square. And now everything lines up very nicely just because we matched up the dimensions of our map with the dimensions of our scene. So we still have this big kind of dorky, ugly ceiling. So let's do something about that. I also have an image prepared for that. So we just right-click on that, and we're going to choose a texture image to fill the entire surface. And this is going to be the preparation chamber ceiling. There. And so remember, we can still look down through the ceiling and up through the floor. That's why that looks a little weird. But when you're kind of in an ISO view or third-person view like this, if we didn't do it that way, you'd just see the back or the top of the ceiling, and that wouldn't really do you any good. If you want to see what the room looks like from inside, you can just get inside there and kind of look around and adjust your viewpoint accordingly. When we get some characters in here, you'll be able to actually switch into the character's viewpoint and see what that's all about too. So we need some walls in our scene, seeing as how we turned off our kind of not very flexible standard static walls. So what we're going to do for that is we have some 3D objects that we're going to bring into the scene, and I'm going to go back to top-down view here. And we are going to bring in some wall segments for here and here, and then here all the way around the room. We're not going to wall off these ends. These are open hallways that we can approach and exit through. Our party of characters can approach and exit through. So we're just going to get a little bit of an angle here to see, so we can see some stuff. So in order to add any 3D objects that aren't characters, this is the drop down that you want, and this is your in-scene objects. Not only is this a place where you can add objects, but as we add objects, you will see them. They'll all be listed here, and there's a reason for that too. So let's add our first wall segment. We've got a 5, 10, 15, 20-foot wall segment right here. So let's get a 20-foot wall segment. We've got a bunch of standard walls set up here, and it's very easy to make these. We're going to have a bunch of wall sets that you can bring in of various lengths and heights and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to go with a standard wall 20 feet long by 15 feet high. So our room right now, if you remember, is if we turn our walls back on here, can see that it's 15 feet high. And again, this is 4 here, where you only see 3 squares. Remember, we're counting vertices or lines 1, 2, 3, 4. If we want this to be taller, we can certainly do that. If we want it to be shorter, 10 feet tall, we can certainly do that. We're going to leave it right at a 15-foot ceiling for this. So let's go get our first wall segment here. (20 by 15). Remember, everything is all objects unless you change it right here are inserted at the origin of the scene, which is 0, 0, 0, which is the top left, and then even with the floor from the vertical standpoint. And for this image, that's just fine. We'll leave it up there, and it's easy enough to just drag this right there, and that's where we want it. Looks great. So now another thing, remember, just like with this kind of built-in walls, floor, and ceiling, I have these objects set up so that from the back side you can see right through them. And again, when you're kind of out in 3D or in ISO mode, you still want to be able to see into your scene. Only when you're in there, your viewpoint is in the scene, do you only want to see it as a solid room. And like I said, when we put some figures in here and switch to their viewpoint and move around, you'll see how that looks. So we could go up here, and you can see now we have a standard wall, and when you highlight over it, you get a little indicator there, so you can always tell what's what. Additionally, you can go in here, and if you want to change the name from standard wall 20 by 15, if somehow this wall is significant, you just click this, and you can change the name here, and you can even add some descriptive text. This text will be available when your players right-click. They won't get all these controls or all the information, but they will be able to see the name and the description and some of the other basic stuff about it. But we're going to put a whole bunch of walls in here, so we don't really care what they're called. But one thing we are concerned with here, or we're going to use here, is that we can make a quick copy of this object. It's not really a copy. It's just saying, hey, give me another copy of this same object. So it's really easy to do right here, and we get it right here. So we're going to drag this one right here, and if you look, oh no, that's not right. We're seeing through the back of this one, that's correct, but this one, it's solid on the wrong side. Well, that's easy enough to fix, because we can just come in here and just spin that right around. So now you can see through the hallway here, but if you're in the hallway, you can see that both of those are solid now on the inside, but we can still see into our room. If we were like this and the backs of these walls were solid, from here, all of this would be solid, and you wouldn't be able to see any of this detail in here in the room. Okay, so let's keep going. We've got a bunch of another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another 6 of these 20-foot wall segments to do. So let's just start a copying, and we're going to move this one right over here. Whoops. And we'll copy that one. And move that one. And then again, when you're in 3D, you're moving things around. The closer you are to top-down mode, the easier it is going to be for you to move and place things kind of where you want. Because the problem is, otherwise, when you're like this, you're really moving in 3 dimensions with a 2D device. Your mouse is really a 2D device, so it's not always the easiest to do. But if you go right to top-down mode, you can see that now we're kind of eliminating that third dimension, and it makes moving things much easier. So this we're going to bring right here, and we're going to, let's see, we're going to flip it like that and move it in there. Perfect. And we'll just copy here. We're going to move this one over here. And again, boink, put that one right where it goes. Copy for the next one. Bring that one down here. And let's do that. Get out of the way. And we'll do the last 20-foot segment and bring that one over here. And move it into place. Click. Perfect. So we're done with our 20-foot sections. Now we got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 40, 50. So let's get rid of this. Here again, you can see all the walls we've added, and if you want to know which one is which, you can just do that. And what this does is it will focus you in, no matter how many objects you have in your scene. If you pick one of them, it's just going to put you right on top of it. That's the whole point, one of the points of this menu, in addition to adding objects. So we need a 50-foot by 15. Here it is. And we're just going to snap that one right in there. And let's make a copy of that. And bring that down here. And let's flip it around right away. Woot. And there we go. We've got our walls. Now, if you bring your viewpoint down and into the room, first things first though, because now if I grab one of these, I'm going to drag it around and move it some more. So what I'm going to do is go to this menu here, our scene properties, and I'm going to just click lock everything. So now, instead of grabbing and dragging a wall, they're locked in place. So as you can see here, we're in the room, and we're looking around, and we've got our room. We've got a couple more things to do. First of all, one thing we can do, if you want, if you're interested, we can say, oh, what does this look like if it's only 10 feet tall? You can see we can do that, and it scrunches things down just fine. But we're going to go back to 15. So we've got this kind of chimney-looking thing here, and we've got a little drainage grate down here. But that's just so flat. One of the nice things, nice features we have here is that on the floor and ceiling, in addition to placing objects, you can also, and I'm going to go back to top-down view, you can also add elevation changes. And that's done very simply. You just right-click on the floor or the ceiling, and you click the toggle the terrain controls. It's elevation changes. And you get, at each vertice in the grid, you get a little ball. And if you right-click on that, it's going to move the elevation up. And if you left-click on it, if you left-click on it, it's going to move the elevation up. And if you right-click on it, it's going to move it down. So we want to move our drain down a little bit. So we're going to go down, down, whoops, down, down, and down. And then we'll just turn this off. So now we've got our drain, and it's actually 3D. It's hey, it's actually down. That's kind of cool. Now we're going to do the same thing with this, only in reverse. So let's move this up and up and up and up. Turn these off. So now we've got some actual 3D looking stuff, and you can actually do that as much as you want. So if we want to go up some more, there. Let's turn our controls off. Very nice, very nice. So the point here is when you're bringing in the 2D world, what you would call your battle map in, and it has some 2D features on it, you can augment those 2D features with actual 3D elevation changes. And there's just a ton of different things you can do with that, for stairs, for even rock and that type of thing, or if you've got a cave where you have a stream going through, you can lower the stream bed, all sorts of stuff that you can do. In addition to actually bringing, you could kind of create your own stalagmites and stalactites if you wanted to, or you could bring in actual 3D objects of stalactites and stalagmites, things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility with regard to how you can do these things. So, what should we do next? Let's take a look at this from the outside. And again, this looks kind of weird from out here, but remember, we're seeing the side of it, and because we are looking, as you rotate, depending on your angle, you will see that, and the same thing goes with the elevation change down here. But that's normal. You are actually seeing it, and there may be, if you have an actual chimney or something going up, you may actually want to see what's going on there. So having the kind of sides, if you will, be transparent, just like these walls are. You always want to be able to see. You don't want the scene itself getting in the way of moving characters around or moving objects around, or anything like that. So let's throw a character in here before we do anything else, and then we can look at some other things that we can do with the scene. So first of all, let's set our insertion point, and then we can look right here at this wall segment, because I want to put a character in this kind of entry hallway, and say this is at 4 and 6 on the X and Z. So why don't we go with 5 and 7. Get this out of here, and let's just bring in old Sir Osric the Chaste. And there he is. Great. So let's bring him back here a little bit, and let's rotate him. And let's see what he sees. Let's change into his viewpoint. Hey, there. Now we see a room. Very cool. You can tell that this is going up. You can tell that this is going down. If we want to walk around in here, we can do that. Oh, look at this terrain. This is pretty interesting. You actually are walking down and back up the terrain. You can walk right out the other side, or you can back up, turn around, say, what is that? Let's take a closer look at that. All right. Looks good. And you're not just moving the viewpoint around here either. So let's see. We're gonna go and walk right into our grate here. And then if we change back to scene view, you can see that there he is. And so let's just turn around and put him in the corner here. And there he is. One thing to remember, you can always drag him around too. And again, when you're in 3 dimensions, it's best to try and be as up above as possible, so you can just grab him and then move him around just like this. And our grid snap is on, so wherever we go, if you don't like that, you can always just take and move him nice and smoothly wherever you want. But I'm a fan of the grid snap. So let's take a look at some other things we can do with the scene. Let's look at some lighting. So the DM light is a kind of a weird concept. Excuse me just. The DM light has several controls here for the color of the light, the intensity, the ambient intensity, and the radius of the light. It also has a button down here. When this is off, grayed out as it is now, the players do not see this light, okay? This is just for the DM, so he can kind of see what's going on. And then for the players, you may have some light for them, or you may not, and they may have to depend solely on the light sources that they have. And how you manage that is completely up to you. Some people are really strict about light sources, and any light, if the room doesn't have any light, it's going to be pitch black unless one of the characters has a light source. And that would be represented more like this. It's black. But for the DM, that's what the players would see right now because the DM light is off. But if, let's say, Sir Osric has a light source, we'll get to audio in a second. Let's say he's got a torch, kind of orangey in color, not very intense. And we will turn his light on. You may not have noticed it because I don't have its very, very light intensity there. But if we now and put the DM light all the way off again, now this is what the players would see in this instance. And if we switch into Sir Osric's viewpoint here, this is what you would see. And you can tell he moves with the light source. And then again, you can certainly make his light source a little bigger, a little more useful for him. But some DMs, and I count myself in this camp, sometimes I may want the players to see something like this, but sometimes maybe I want them to be able to see, okay, there is some more, there is a bit of the world out there that you can see in addition to your light source. And in that case, I would turn on the DM light for the players, and now the players would see exactly what I'm seeing. Again, this is all DM preference, personal preference on how you want to approach presenting your scenes, your encounters to your players. Again, some people very strict on the light, some people not so much. They want the players to be able to kind of see the environment that they're in, and going to give them a little bit of help, cut them some slack, if you will, on the light. But again, you have the option to do it really any way that you want. You can also use the DM light for, and I'm just going to turn his light source off here. You can use the DM light for effects that you want. If there's you can have some light going on. It's a sinister red glow that really you don't know where it's coming from, but everything is got a red cast to it, something like that. Again, however you want to do it. Fog, if we have fog, again, we can set the color for the fog. So let's say we have like a noxious gas going on here and we want to have a nasty green haze. You can set the color and then the visibility range. If you go like this, boom, you've got very, very thick fog. You can't really see through it. But if you dial that down a little bit, you can see, and if we again switch into Sir Osric's view, you can tell that we've got some fog going on here in the room, and we can then make that thicker or make it so it's very light haze, hardly noticeable at all. And this can even be used for other things if you wanted to simulate sort of an underwater type of situation. You could do this in conjunction with some other effects to give yourself all sorts of different dungeon type effects. And again, this is going to be in conjunction with any other lights that are in the scene. Just like with Sir Osric has his own light source. Every object that you place, and we're going to place a few in here in just a second, they all have their own light sources. Excuse me for 1 second. And I'm back. Like I was saying, every object will have its own light and audio source. So while we're here, let's talk about the context menu for characters. As you saw, all 3D objects are either characters or they're what we generically call objects. Characters are a little bit different in that they have a viewpoint and they have some other options that go along with them. And objects have almost all the same stuff, but there are some slight differences. But they do have a light. So if you have a torch object or a campfire object or a lantern object or a glowing radiant pool object, you can set a light source if you want it to throw some light. You can certainly do that and change the color and all of that of the light itself. So why don't we grab a couple of things and throw them in here? And we can start playing with some of them. Why don't we grab some crates? Crates and boxes. Crates various, how about that? There we go. Let's move that over into this corner. And I didn't mention, but on the character as well as on the figure, you have a couple of controls here. This one, unless you have need to turn it off, I would leave it on. It makes your life a lot easier. It's the magnetism. And that keeps, when you're moving things around, it keeps them magnetized or keeps them on the floor. Now, there are going to be times where you don't want that to be the case, and that's fine. You can turn the magnetism off and move things up. If you do that and you want to get it back to the floor, you can just click this and that'll just drop it down. And then again, I'm going to magnetize that just because I find it very irritating when I don't. All right, we got some crates over here. And why don't we rotate these crates a little bit? And what else we got here? What else can we add in here? How about some barrels? Barrels vertical. Okay, and let's rotate these. You can tell we have several different ways of rotating things, whether it's in-scene controls or just like I did there, using the controls. These are absolute rotation. Basically, if you use these, it's going to overwrite any in-scene rotation you did. These controls are meant to be just quick and easy basic rotation. If you want to rotate in all 3 dimensions at the same time, you got real fine tune, you just want to get it just the way you want, then I would turn on the in-scene rotational controls, and then you can do anything you want. It gets very crazy. And these, they look a little small here, so why don't we bump those up just a touch. That's fine. And again, as I go here, I'm going to just lock the scene, so I'm not accidentally dragging things around. What else can we have? What else can we add here? How about a bookshelf? And why don't we make another one of those? Great. What else? What else? How about a couple of tables? I think we got some tables. There we go. And again, when I'm moving things, I like to get as close to a top-down aspect as I can. And then this, I definitely want to, seems... What else do we have? How about some different barrels over here? And then if you want to move things individually after the scene has been locked, you can always just unlock them individually. Let's just get these over against the wall. Relock that. So you can lock and unlock individually or lock and unlock at the scene level. All right, last but not least, how about, well, let's try this. Why don't we add a couple of lanterns? And if you were here for last night's stream, or I forget which stream it was, you can see that this lantern actually has kind of a, it looks like the fire in there is actually glowing, and if we turn off the lights here, you'll see that that is actually the case. That's called emissive light, and what that is it does not require any external light to be seen, but it does not throw any light of its own. So it's nice for things like fire and the like. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this, and we're going to, oh, we don't want this to be magnetized. Whoa. Because we want it to, and we actually want this to have some light it's going to throw. That's a little too intense. And then we're going to grab this and we're going to move it up to the ceiling. And that's kind of hanging out in the middle of nowhere there. Let's get that up. Oh. Okay, so let's turn our grid snap off here. Get this kind of up. There we go. So it's mounted right on the ceiling. And let's copy that. And again, I'm going to go top down here. Let's get this out of the way. And let's get in here again. Oops. Turn off the magnet. And now we can also do another thing here. We can translate this up like this too. Oh, hey, we get notifications for every click. All right, well, that probably shouldn't be happening, but. And now we will go up here. And let's turn that light on. So now, if we reset to scene mode here, and we turn off our light, oh, I'm going to set those lights, but we didn't turn them on. Okay, so that seems pretty. Yeah, and let's go over here, turn that on. Again, seems pretty bright. So now if we turn the DM light off, this is what the players would see right here. And if we switch down into good old Sir Osric's view, you can see now we've got a much different looking scene than we had before. So we can maybe add a little bit of good old dungeon mist in here. There we go. And we got a much different atmosphere than when we started. Yeah, let's turn the fog off for now. We've lost good old Sir Osric. What happened to him? Oh, ha! He walked through the wall. And so there we go. Now, last but not least, I think, what is the position here? 18 by 6. So why don't we change this to by 7, and let's grab nothing better than having someone to worry about here. So, and you can even have sound associated, so your players so we can even do that. So let's I don't think I've got a good sound for a dungeon here, but let's see. Here's our file manager. I'm going to find a dungeon sound effect here. Let's see. What do we got here? Do we got any kind of dungeon? Strange places. How about fantasy? Wilderness. How about dungeon? Let's upload that. We get a progress up here while it's uploading. Okay, and here it is. Great. Now we can come to our scene menu. And here's our dungeon. We're going to loop that. I have no idea what this sounds like. Okay, sure. And there you have it. What did that take us? Not even an hour. And granted, a lot of these things were done and ready to go, but our asset library is fairly comprehensive already, as you saw, growing every day. And if you heard about our Kickstarter, which you can get the details of by clicking right on this once you're at the site, or it's on all our social media pages, is going to be launching a week from tomorrow, July 1st. The money that we're really looking for, as you can see, the software is done and ready to go. And streams this weekend and next week, we're going to look at some more advanced scenes, outdoor scenes, different things that we can do. And then we're also going to get into actually running live game session. What we're doing here is mainly what I would call, authoring or creation. Not much in the way of interaction with your players. But obviously, you've got to build your encounters first. And then we'll talk about managing a live session, how people get in and out, how you communicate, what things look like to the players versus the DM, and just basically kind of the game flow and using some of the other features of the site that help smooth along your live game sessions and keep everything moving, keep things fun. What we got here is a very immersive scene here for the players, and it doesn't take a lot to do. But our Kickstarter, as I was saying before I started rambling off on a tangent, the money that we're looking for there is mainly to create more content. So that for two reasons. Number one, so that when you come in, you want to build a scene or a number of scenes for your scenarios, that you have all these assets, the walls, and all of these trimmings and trappings, just ready to go. Drop them in, rotate them, move them around, scale them up a little bit, scale them down, whatever you need to do. Have a bunch of great figures for the monsters, all painted up and ready to go. In addition to that, we plan on having complete scenarios, just turnkey, so you can come in just like you'd buy a scenario from the store. You will obviously have to read it as a Dungeon Master and become familiar with the storyline in each encounter. There's no way around that. But you'll have a series of scenes, figures, everything will be lock, stock, ready to go, plunk. Get your players in and start playing. In addition to that, we will be running at least one living campaign, if not more, so that people can come and just sign up on the fly based on a real-time schedule, and we'll get 3, 4, 5 players into a game, and off they'll go for a 4 or 5 hour session. And that character will live in the world. So if you play with one group of people one night, and you can bring that character into a different group the following week or whatever. If you want to bring an entire group of players, that's fine. Sign up for all the slots, or you can just play individually, just like you would at a tournament in a living campaign, where you bring the same character to every tournament. Everything is tracked about the character, and all these scenarios are going to be tiered, so that based on the average party level, the challenge ratings of the encounters will be adjusted accordingly, so you can get your first and second level characters playing with 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level characters, and the encounters will scale accordingly. We'll probably have a max delta on there, just to, so we don't have first and second level characters with 16, 17 level characters. But there certainly will be tiers where it really doesn't matter what level you are, as long as you're getting in a group with similar level, or within 6, 7, 8 levels, for those of you who've played living campaigns in the past, that system works just fine. And so that's what we're really looking for with the Kickstarter funds. The software, we've put a ton of time, a ton of effort, a ton of money into all of this. I hope you can see that from what we just did tonight and some other videos that we've got on YouTube and other VODs here on Twitch. But the software is ready to go. We are continually adding features to that. We've got a number of things that are in the works, that are on the list, and that we're going to be working on again, and hopefully the money we raise from the Kickstarter is going to help us basically just dedicate more time, hire more people, and get into doing this and making great content just like this. But for tonight, that is all we have. Join us on the next stream, which will probably be tomorrow. We'll be doing some more scene authoring and talk about some other techniques with the elevation changes on the floors and the ceilings, doing things that just give you a quick little preview here, things that we can do really cool effects with what's called panoramas, and how this can work with your encounters. All very cool stuff that we look forward to sharing with you. But for tonight, thanks for watching. Please remember to check out our Kickstarter. The link is here on the site, and it's on all of our social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. Feel free to join our Discord server. All of the information is there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out on any of those social media platforms. Like and follow and do all that kind of good stuff. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.